everyone. My name's Audrey Swift and I'm an ex-Master Corporal in the Canadian Army, Fort Garry Horse Unit. I'm also Dr. Tate's postdoc and I have an interdisciplinary PhD in psychology, community health sciences and nursing. I'll just give you a little bit of background about how I got involved with the study. My advisor was Dr. Judy Chipperfield from the main campus, Fort Garry campus, and she's a psychologist there. And coincidentally, Judy was Betty Haven's grad student. So Betty's sort of like my academic grandmother, if you think of her that way. Through Aging in Manitoba, I became a research assistant under Dr. Barbara Payne, and I worked there for like 3 years with Dr. Payne and Madeline Hall. And my job there was to code the narrative data from the Aging in Manitoba data set. And during that time, I got a chance to meet Dr. Tate. And he sort of held the carrot on the stick and said, you know, if you finish your PhD, you could come and be a postdoc for me. So that's sort of what happened. I ended up with the Manitoba follow-up study. I'm very proud about that. But with regard to the data, all my graduate training and my thesis for both my master's and my PhD were both using the Aging in Manitoba data. And that is mostly a data set with women. Like, it's mostly women, so the results were speaking mainly to women. So now, what a huge advantage and opportunity for me to be able to see how my research would pan out with these older men. So my research interest is in perceived control and health and well-being. So it's like psychological control. It's almost like the mind-body connection for older people. So how do your thoughts affect your physical well-being? And some people think that these perceptions of control over life are made up of two different types of control called primary and secondary control. And primary control is really when you want to do something. So if I say I'm going to go out shopping and I do it, or even if I think I can do it, and the benefits of that kind of mindset are huge for health and well-being and even for survival. So pictured here are some individuals exercising primary control. Oh, how did that picture of Dr. Tate get in there? Sorry, Dr. Tate. You know, they're hard-driving individuals, really ambitious. They're doers, they're go-getters. They crack the whip on their postdocs, things like that. But then the secondary control people are sort of more easygoing. You know, they have a challenge in life, but they don't sort of want to grab it by the neck and shake it. They want to just sort of embrace it and deal with it internally and let it go. Very much like the Eastern perspective of Zen. Okay, and that one is called secondary control. Now, in primary and secondary control, there's been a bit of past work. There's been age and gender differences that have been suggested by past theory and research. And at the top, we see a graph of age. And you see ages 0 to 100, and the red hump, the inverted U, is your primary control. So that's taking direct action. So when you're a baby, for example, at age 0, you don't have any primary control. You can't do anything. Like, people are giving you your bottle, they're changing your diapers, they put you in the car seat, but you yourself don't have primary control. You can't do anything. Then, supposedly when you're 50, supposedly postdocs excluded, you have a job, you can buy things, you know, you're the master of your own destiny, right? And so your primary control peaks, as indicated by the hump on the red U there. And then as you get older again, though, you know, the ability to exercise direct control dwindles because you get a bit more frail and you get comorbidities. And then closer to the end of life, for many people, it turns out that other people end up looking after them again. So they no longer have any more primary control, evidenced by the age 100 on there. That's a generalization. There's a lot of 100-year-olds that are really healthy, but that's the theory. So that red line is primary control. Now, with secondary control, it's a bit different. Secondary control is thought to start pretty early in life and increase all the way through. So the thinking is, if you're having those positive thoughts and you're able to embrace negative situations and events and release them, that's the essence of life, because you can transcend your physical well-being going down the tubes at age 100. Okay, so that's the theory on age. Now with gender, there are thought to be gender differences in perceived control, and that's kind of where my postdoc research is going with the men. So it's thought that men sort of prefer to do primary control. They want to take action. They want to ride motorcycles and, do things. Whereas women are sort of more fond of embracing things and letting it go and somehow coping in a positive way. Okay. So how did I use the Manitoba follow-up study data and how am I using it now? Well, ever since 1996, as Dr. Tate pointed out, the follow-up study's been asking the men, what is your definition of successful aging? It's a narrative question. They can answer a short answer, 2 words, 1 word, or some of them write on 2 pages what their definition is. And so what I've been doing as part of my postdoc is using the Manitoba follow-up study coding manual to categorize the responses into mutually exclusive categories of primary and secondary control, and then I've been able to put that into SAS and SPSS and kind of look at health outcomes longitudinally, which is huge because really in the research there's no knowledge out there on very old men and perceived control. There's only theory. So what have I found so far? That primary control remains really important to men even when they get fairly old, okay, in very late life. So even when they're sort of, approaching, well, the study members are about 91 right now, about 40% of them still say, being in control of my life's important. And even if they're not actually in control, the perception that they're in control is beneficial. So some men, though, switch from an emphasis on acting directly to being able to transcend. So they switch from primary to secondary control. Secondary control does relate to older men's health and well-being over time. So, looking at physical health, mental health, and functional well-being using the SF36 measures with the constructs of control, I had significant results. And lastly, older men use different combinations of control as they age, and that's sort of what I'm on to now. I'm trying to figure out what exactly it is they do. And as Dr. Tate's postdoc, I've had huge opportunities. I've been able to go to Ottawa to present at a conference, at Vancouver, and this week I get to go to San Diego. Thank you very much.